Hello, Uta here on a kind of busy day. This is my last full day here at home for a couple of weeks. I'm going to be helping my guy with getting some medical treatment, and I'm very optimistic about it. I want to first begin with a little story from my son. I was looking through some of the old notes. And so we were in the train, and he looks out, and on the platform next to the train is a very heavy, obese man walking by. And he says, he must have been maybe three and a half. And he says, that man has a really fat belly. And and I shushed him and said, we can't say things like that so loudly. And he looks to his little brother, who is just listening and not sleeping. And then he says, why, Mom? Is somebody sleeping? Oh, I cherish those stories. And my sons have decided to estrange themselves from me because I refuse to call their father anything else but their father. and and so they're missing out on these beautiful stories from their childhood because, of course, uh, for their father, all of that was during the time of his past life that whatever he calls in his veneration of death cult. um, yes. But what this really is about is another detransitioner lawsuit. I feel like I'm talking a little bit differently because I'm working with my Feldenkrais instructor to loosen tension that I've been holding in my jaw, and we're going to work on my neck a little bit. And one piece of advice I can give you is try to take some of the relaxation from this time at rest. Often you're going to be laying on your back or your side or something when you're doing relaxation, and try to remember those sensations and really lock them in your imagination so that when you're walking around and going about all of the work and play and so on that you're doing in your life, think of, this sort of smooth, warm breeze kind of blowing down the back of your body and help those places where you carry tension to relax. And what I try to think of is the front of my core being quite supportive, and I am contracting my abdominals, but at the same time, letting my shoulders drop and making sure I'm not pushing my head forward, and I'm trying to carry my back side, my all of these places where I tend to carry tension. I'm trying to breathe this relaxation into them. So it's interesting. I'm noticing more leaves dropping. It's kind of a windy day, and I keep thinking that I'm seeing butterflies or goldfinches, but it's just the leaves. And thank you for paying attention to the story of the levitating leaf, the hanging leaf. And very sweetly, people were saying things. Oh, what about the spider? What do you think happened to the spider? And it's like, look, we have to enjoy these moments, and we have to recognize that insects, insects and spiders have a rather short lifespan. So we have to enjoy them in the moments when we see them and remember them. Yeah. But okay, so there's another detransitioner, and I had predicted an avalanche of detransitioner lawsuits, and that is going to be an important thing. So this is posted with just a few comments on my WordPress blog, utahagengrasswidow.wordpress.com, which I put in the notes. And this time I will put it like in the top line so that you can see um, the how to get there. I'm noticing that there's more traffic here on the site. We're pretty much securely above 1400. Today was 1411. And I know that sometimes people drop in and then they get it and then they unsubscribe or something. And good, that's fine. You might want to stay subscribed. Please do like. I do believe that there's possibly a slight algorithm shenanigans going on, but I noticed that especially after I did the Tammy Peterson interview, now that it's posted on Tammy Peterson YouTube channel, I have, because she has a much bigger following, and of course Jordan Peterson has a way, way bigger following. That's her husband. I think that some of you are finding me that way, and it is going to be important. More trans widow stories, I am sure, will be getting notice, and more detransitioners are going to be doing the lawsuits. So here we go. This is from Mary Margaret Olohan of the Daily Signal, and it is published verbatim with my highlights and just a few comments. And so, you can read it there and copy it or something like that. Detransitioner Luca Hine is suing the medical providers who surgically amputated her breasts at the age of 16 in 2018, leaving her physically and psychologically scarred. This is a quote from the legal paper, the suit. Proceeding straight to breast amputation in a depressed, anxiety-ridden, gender-confused adolescent who was incapable of understanding the lasting consequences of her decision constitutes negligence for which defendants are jointly and severally liable, the lawsuit states. Hine, now 21, is one of a growing number of young women who are coming forward to sue the doctors and therapists who propelled them along the path towards surgical and hormonal transition. A detransitioner is someone who sought to change his or her gender through hormonal or surgical interventions and ultimately regretted the attempt and returned to living as his or her biological sex. Now, I think often it's good to call it sex trait modification. And I plan to use that term, sex trait modification, instead of saying gender affirming care, because gender affirming care is a silly euphemism. My light is changing. It's interesting. I guess I have enough light to read here. Hine's lawsuit describes how she struggled through her parents' divorce in her early teens, how she was groomed online by predatory adults, struggled dramatically with her mental health, and ultimately was put on testosterone for 4 years, causing disruptions in her endocrine system, heart damage, her voice to deepen, pain throughout her body, and permanent dysregulation of her reproductive organs. See, they're going to get better at the language. This is clearly malpractice. I wonder how they measure the heart damage in someone who is as young as 21. Represented by the Pittsburgh-based nonprofit legal group Center for American Liberty, Hine is accusing her doctors of causing her physical pain and mental suffering, both past and future, heavy medical expenses, permanent impairment of her earning capacity, inconvenience and loss of enjoyment of life, and permanent scarring, injury, and disability. As a proximate result of the actions of the defendants, and each of them, okay, so this is the legal language, Luca's breasts were surgically amputated, leaving her physically and psychologically scarred, the lawsuit says. If she has not also suffered the loss of her fertility, Luca has lost the ability to breastfeed, thereby depriving her of the maternal benefits of nursing. And there are benefits. When you first start nursing after you've given birth, uh, that helps contract down the uterus to go down to its original size, because of course it was expanded in pregnancy. Um, the filing continues. Luca's future children will be deprived of the natural bonding effects and nutritional benefits of breastfeeding. Um, you know, those who have to bottle feed, it does happen that sometimes a baby doesn't develop the suckling capacity to really get enough through breastfeeding. In fact, I know of a woman who pumped because the baby did not suckle uh, really competently and took the breast milk out of the bottle. So, this is not in any way to make a statement that if a baby has to be bottle fed, that extreme damage will happen. But it is depriving this young woman of all of this potential, experience as a woman. Uh, the suit names University of Nebraska Medical Center, Nebraska Medicine, Nahia Amora, MD, Perry Johnson, MD, Stefan Barrientos, MD, and psychotherapist Megan Smith Salins. Nebraska Medicine declined to comment, and the rest of the medical professionals did not respond to requests for comment. In July, 21-year-old Texas detransitioner Soren Aldaco, there's also an article probably copied from City Journal or the Daily Signal on Uta Hagengrass Widow, .wordpress.com about Soren. Yeah. So in July, 21-year-old Texas detransitioner Soren Aldaco filed a lawsuit alleging that her doctors behaved more like ideologues than medical professionals and that they did not properly take her autism, depression, anxiety, and other comorbidities into account when they evaluated her for an attempted gender transition. See, I just think even in an article like this, it should be evaluated her for sex trait modifications. The repercussions of these interventions have led to Soren's permanent disfigurement and profound psychological scarring, the suit alleges. The defendants' breaches, this is meaning the doctors' breaches, of their fiduciary duties are not only underscored by the fact that each defendant met Soren and facilitated these therapies, in quotes, at a pivotal juncture in Soren's life when she was grappling not only with the universal challenges of adolescence and body image, but also with a complex amalgamation of diagnosed mental health comorbidities and other psychological and social disorders. It's going to be really interesting to see how these lawsuits play out. You might have a better case with a Texas jury. Earlier in July, Prisha Mosley filed a lawsuit accusing her doctors and therapists of rushing her down a dangerous and life-altering path. Both Mosley and Aldaco are represented by Campbell Miller Payne, PLLC. Detransitioners Chloe Cole and Layla Jane, represented by the Center for American Liberty, have also recently announced high-profile lawsuits against medical practitioners at Kaiser Foundation hospitals and Permanente Medical Group. Now, that clinic in St. Louis has just announced that because Missouri has now made it possible for detransitioners to engage in a malpractice lawsuit up to 15 years after. The center announced that they will no longer do the puberty blockers, hormones, or surgeries on minors. Basically admitting that they're doing it on minors. They keep changing their mind. Are we doing it or are we not doing it? When it's convenient for us, we say we're not doing it. So I'm just going to end now with a photo from the last year of my mother's life. We're getting pretty close to September 17th, the anniversary of her passing in 2019 at the age of 100. I love you all. And I acted out and asked the nurse to take a picture of my mother putting her forehead to my forehead to check if I might have a fever. And so this is this lovely little gesture that I did with her. She had that band around because she was made to leave her home and then live in this a Grace Hospice, a place which has many too many beds, and takes people in when they're not that close to death, because really you're only supposed to go to hospice if you have 6 months or less to live. And my mother lived a year and a week. Now, the other thing that this brings up is the medical assistance in death regulations in Canada. And there's someone who is I guess, a detransitioner, a male who has native indigenous background. Duchess something was the name that he took. And he's very miserable. He feels that he's in very ill health after the surgeries and the hormones, the estrogen he was taking. And he applied to have assisted suicide. And he's, I think, only in his 30s. And he was denied. So all of these things seem to go together. It's this assistance in death. This is all kind of pushing people forward into another world. But Lorraine and Richard, my parents, are smiling down from heaven, as I always say. And let's see, let's give you a little view of the garden. There you are. A little bit of apricot-y color. And so just be well. I don't know if I can do one before I leave tomorrow, and I might do some nature shorts when I'm away, if I have some pretty things, and film it on my phone, but I just am not quite sure. Be sure to keep up. There will be community posts for sure. I have some new photos we're going to upload, and please go out in the world, breathe deeply, relax, and walk in the light.